The Texas legislative session is not too far away, and this is the first week that lawmakers can start filing bills. And already we've had numerous bills being filed, and that includes one targeting sanctuary cities. And joining us to talk about his bill targeting sanctuary cities in the upcoming legislative session is Texas State Senator Charles Perry. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. Driving down the beautiful highways in Texas right now, going to Monaghan.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you coming on with us. And let's talk about the bill that you filed. The Texas Tribune reported yesterday that it's similar to the bill that you filed in 2015. Talk to us about this current piece of legislation and what's similar and what's different.
Sure. It's about the same bill. It's a better bill. It's a little stronger, a little more clear. I guess the biggest changes we made is we've given the magistrate, which is typically the individual judge or the judge responsible for setting bonds for those individuals that may be detained, and the information what the legal status of their immigration status is wasn't available. So if the bill is passed, which I believe we'll have, we've got will on both sides of the chamber to get it through, and the governor's ready to sign it. And low bill number, SB4, that's significant. That means that it is a high priority bill for the session. But effectively what we're going to do is have information provided to the magistrate when they go to setting bonds that will say this is an illegal or an undocumented citizen. So that information, to believe it or not, was not currently available to a magistrate when setting bond. So we've got situations where someone would come before the judge that may be undocumented, that may have committed a crime, that under the current federal immigration laws were available to be bonded out, or detainers, or those kind of issues. Now the magistrate's going to have that information for him, which will hopefully influence his amount of bail to be set, and whether or not they want to even give that individual a bail based on their undocumented status.
So does this target the cities itself and you know the different law enforcement in the cities, or is this just dealing with once you get inside the courtroom?
No, it's holistic and comprehensive.
Okay.
What the heart of the bill is, you as a jurisdiction, be it a municipality, a county, a sheriff, cannot have a formal or informal policy that discourages or will not allow a frontline officer to ask regarding immigration status. Now, everybody said you cannot pull someone over for only the sole purpose of checking immigration status. However, in the commission of a crime, i.e. speeding, running a stop sign, or whatever other awful detainment, this would tell an officer that they felt the need to inquire based on that situation at hand, that they should not be prohibited by the authority that they work under from asking that. And I can give you some great examples, with child sex trafficking and a lot of the human trafficking issues going on. You pull someone over that there's a good indication that maybe they're working for a cartel, and you start asking, inquiring questions about the passengers in the back seats, and if one thing leads to another, and you determine this person is undocumented, that the people in the back probably are not there on their own, their own will, then that would be prohibited under some of these cities' policies from asking the immigration status to kind of move through that line of questioning. We want the officer, the front line, person delegated that first contact to be feel free that if it is relevant to what they're doing and they didn't pull them over for that sole purpose, to have the flexibility and the discretion to ask and inquire those issues.
Visiting with Texas State Senator Charles Perry on the show, talking about sanctuary cities. Let's say there's a city, and I'm just going to pick one out of thin air, the city of Austin, that says we're a sanctuary city. We're proud to be a sanctuary city. We're not going to comply with the feds. And Senator Perry, we're not going to comply with your bill either. Okay. What happens at that point?
The good thing is, since last session, the feds have even put it on their radar that they will no longer fund federal grants to those cities that have that policy. The state will follow suit. Any state grant would not be funded to that jurisdiction. Now, if you have a municipality that says we're not, but the sheriff department says we're good, we're going to enforce the federal and state immigration laws, then the sheriff's department in that county wouldn't be punished, but that municipality. So Austin, in this case, the city's very adamant, very vocal, and very public. They're going to be a sanctuary city and proud of it. They're going to lose any state grants that are available to that city today if they go forward with that, if we can show that that's happened. But Travis County Sheriff's Department, if they chose to enforce the federal and state immigration laws, they would not be in jeopardy of losing federal or state funding at that point.
What happens going through this process now? Last in 2015, it didn't make it out of the Senate. By the way you're talking, it sounds like you feel pretty confident that it's going to get out of the Senate this time. What's the difference?
Yeah, the difference is we have 2 new seats in the Senate replaced. One of those seats that are being replaced was one of those votes that would not turn over. He, in his mind, believed it was a local control issue, which to this date still floors me. It's a federal and state immigration law. But he did not want to vote for it. I was short 1 vote getting it out of the Senate. Those 2 replacements I've already committed to being for the bill. I had one other individual that was against for different reasons, and I respect those reasons, but he has now seen the wisdom and needing it and the necessity for it. And again, take the immigration issue off the table. It's about rule of law. And I think finally people have caught on with it. With federal momentum where it is, with the new presidency where it is, there's no doubt that it won't get through the process this time.
Do you have any, I'm sure you will have some allies in the House that'll pass it, but do you have anybody on the House side that wants to help carry the water?
Well, I get about 10 calls a day. And that is one of those decision points. And I'll tell you where we're working with that. We'll work with House leadership. I have had conversations with both Lieutenant Governor and Governor. We want this bill to go through. We want it to go through unblemished. It's a stronger bill than it was when I had it in 185 last year. It's a better bill. And so we're going to choose that individual in the House that we believe, one, has the political leadership, the capacity, and the ability to withstand the onslaught that usually comes when you file it to get it through the process. But we're currently evaluating those people, and I owe it to House leadership to help in that process so there's an ownership level there. And I just haven't had time to coordinate that yet.
But before I let you go, and I know we're going to speak often throughout the legislative session, what do you believe are, besides this bill that you have right here targeting sanctuary cities, what do you believe will be some of the high priorities besides the budget as well, but high priority pieces of legislation?
Well, budget for sure. We'll be about $3 to $4 billion short of where we are from coming in last year. We're in good shape. We'll find that. But CPS and foster care reform is absolutely on everybody's radar. It's going to take some money to fix it. New presidency, we possibly freed up several $100 million on border security initiatives, so that helps a lot to go to some of these issues. We have some holes. We have $1.3 billion to $1.6 billion in TRS care. We've got to fundamentally change the foundational funding for teacher health care system. It's just like all health care, it's out of control, so that's been a real task. Public education distribution funding. There is a sincere earnest and energy trying to figure out how we can do that better. That's going to be a painful discussion, whether it gets done in a session or not. Time will tell, but there's interest there. Water. I have got huge water initiatives and large conversations to have about water 20 years from now. So it's going to be a busy session. It's going to be a good session. Money's tighter. Most people don't like to hear that, but I think we're about to pop the top off this economy across this country with the type of policies that the Trump presidency brings to the table and having more control over health care dollars. So all of that's big. We're going to come out of this session with a better health care system going forward. It may not implement until 18 or after. But 18 is our big budget problem, if you want to know the truth. We've carved out $5 billion for roads that begin in 18 that going forward from 17 to 18, that has to be a budget discussion this year, too. So lots and lots of big stuff happening, lots of religious freedom bills. I've got about 60-some-odd bills drafted in and in the hopper right now. Most of them are local requests on things that need to be tweaked, but it'll be a busy session for me, too. It's 51 county district. It keeps you busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Visiting with Texas State Senator Charles Perry. Hey, one more thing. We saw in the national election this rural uprising almost.
Yeah.
The rural versus the elites in on the coast in the big cities. The Dallas Morning News had a piece last week saying, at some point could we see something like that in Texas, where you have the Dallases, the Houstons, the Austins? They're well represented. The large cities, east of 35, well represented. The rural areas. Do you see that divide coming up in this legislative session?
Yeah, it's never been more clear that the divide exists this next session, and for no fault of anybody. But the issues that are important to us, that are not important to the I-35 East Corridor, are just issues that just aren't. They're just not part of their world. Water. Water's a huge issue for us. It's a big issue for I-35 East, but they've got access to water and water development opportunities we don't. So that issue, public school finance, whether you're a choice or not, that's a big issue, rural versus urban.
Yeah.
Property tax reform, absolutely important for all Texans, but when you're having double-digit growth in both appraisals and tax rates effective, it's a big issue in Houston, but it may not be such a big issue for Paducah, Texas. It doesn't have those growth factors. So very much, but your question is this. It worked in the nation, and I was so proud to see good, hard-working, rural, hard-working, agricultural, faith-based communities across the country that believe as we do band together and defeat what was going on. It shows we still have a country that's paying attention and trusts the voters. In Texas, unfortunately, 15% of the population base exists west of I-35. So if you're just to be honest, there's no way that a 15% could probably flip the paradigm we're on, but there's still legitimate reasons we can have a voice in that economic engine of ag, oil, and gas, and those things that we get out here. But there's an argument brewing, and it's one that I hear more and more. The roar of the financial sectors, the diversity of the Texas economy on that I-35 corridor, where they're actually competing economically for this economy we have in Texas. So I don't believe it. I think our ag and our oil and gas production will always be the kingpins and continue to be the exports and things that drive our state budget. But you can sense a change in the dialect or the dialogue. Yeah, that's true. You guys do a great job, and we love you out there. But,
right.
Dallas and financial and all the diversity that Rick Perry was successful. And give Rick Perry that credit. My gosh, 14 years, his legacy was going to be diversifying a Texas economy so that when oil and gas tanks, we're not in the basement. Mm-hmm. Guess what? We're looking at a 4% decrease in statewide budget going forward. 25 years ago, before Rick Perry's tenure, and that was his legacy piece. Diversify, diversify, diversify. I would argue that he say he is successful. Proof's in the pudding. And I'm all about giving those guys credit with policies. Greg Abbott's legacy piece is going to be Article 5 Constitution. And even with the Trump presidency, we still need to move forward on it. Here's the news. We have 33 Republican governors now, I believe it is, or 34, whatever it is. We only need 35 to get an initiative on Article 5 moving and 38 to approve the agenda. We're real close to putting the federal government back in its box. So that's a big piece, too.
Texas State Senator Charles Perry, as always, appreciate your time, and we'll visit with you through the legislative session, sir.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's Texas State Senator Charles Perry. A lot of great information